I do want to move on to Israel and Gaza this week, where nothing good continues. So, Israel is bombarding Gaza City as the UK and France and Australia, Canada and Japan, and other allies all demand action against an unfolding famine. So on Monday, Israel's war cabinet voted to take over Gaza City and have moved on that since. Um, Meanwhile, like I said, those countries, the UK, EU, Australia, Canada, and Japan, have issued a statement saying famine is unfolding in front of our eyes, and they urged action to reverse starvation. On Tuesday, members of an international group of former leaders known as the Elders for the first time called the war in Gaza an unfolding genocide and blamed Israel for causing famine amongst its population. Further criticism against the Netanyahu administration over there. The United Nations experts have said the targeted destruction of Gaza's healthcare system by the IDF amounts to medicide. Also, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned Israel that they may be listed in an upcoming report on sexual violence in war zones. And finally, Australia is the latest to announce that they will recognize a Palestinian state, according to Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Monday. Um, any thoughts on there, Josh? I think I need to come back to you.
I mean, look, I don't know how anybody can look at this and not be just devastated, right? Like at a certain point, I didn't agree, but I at least understood where there was all this debate and discussion about what was going on. But I think that rationally, what we're looking at now, like if the whole point is Israel needs to be able to defend itself, which to be honest, I think it does, right? And I understand it gets complex when you're talking about why they had to defend themselves in the first place. But like almost any country would have done something in response to an October 7th level event. At
Sure.
this point, I think it is very hard to say that they're still fighting the same battle that was needed to protect itself after that point. And I mean, we've seen the videos, the pictures of the kids starving. And like, how can that be okay? There's always been an understanding of, I mean, literally, that's like the Geneva Code, right? Like, even in times of war, there's certain things that are off limits. And what's happening right now, I mean, you have to think about not just what's happening right now, but the long term effects, because for a lot of people that are coming of age now and are just starting to learn about real world events, this is going to be how they remember Israel. And I think that should be just as concerning for Israel as what the war that's going on right now.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. They have become an international pariah, and their obvious starvation of the Palestinian population is horrific to the entire world. And also this week, they targeted journalists in an attack, killing al-Jazeera journalist Anas al-Sharif uh, in a tent, a targeted attack on his tent outside of Al-Shifa Hospital, as well as several of his colleagues. So since Israel launched its war on the enclave in October of 2023. It has routinely accused Palestinian journalists in Gaza of being Hamas, as part of what rights groups say is an effort to discredit their reporting of Israeli abuses. The Israeli military has now killed more than 200 reporters and media workers since its bombardment began, um, more than any other war torn area, or more than all other war torn areas in the world combined in that time. Derek, um, you're our resident Jew. Tell
Thank you.
us. I, like, well, no, like Josh said, Israel is, you know, bringing shame upon itself, becoming an international pariah, ruining its reputation. They, the Netanyahu government has done a really good job of trying to equate its government and the state of Israel with all Jews worldwide. Um, and that, I think, brings harm
Oh yeah,
to the Jewish people, does it not?
oh yeah. It breeds anti-Semitism. Um, it just, I mean, if you link um, the religion with the country, pretty much you're turning. It hurts to even say this, but you're turning Israel to a Jewish version of Iran, a theocratic state that it, you can't do that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the biggest thing is they need to get rid of Netanyahu. I'll scream it from the top of Mount Sinai if I have to. Get rid of Netanyahu again. We all knew this was going to happen, and they're using Geneva as a checklist rather than a no-do list.
Yeah.
So it, it's horrible. It's
A-
extremely
a-
horrible.
And I'll say this, Netanyahu's not even the worst of the bunch, because his coalition includes extremists even further to his right, including Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, who announced further illegal settlements in the West Bank this week, approving tenders to build more than 3,000 housing units in something called the E1 settlement project between Jerusalem and Ma'al Adumim, a plan that he claimed Thursday buries the idea of a Palestinian state. Again, these settlements are illegal under an international law, and with all of the attention on Gaza, rightfully so, the far right Israeli government has also incurred further and further into the West Bank as well. Tracy, any final thoughts over there in the Middle East before we move on?
Yes, I do. I think it's important for us to keep in mind that a vast number of Israelis feel about Netanyahu the way that we feel about Trump.
Yeah,
Um, to them, their country has been hijacked in the way that we feel our country has been hijacked. I'm not Israeli. I'm not Jewish. I can't speak for either, but I do know from the many is Israelis that I've spoken to and Jewish people that I know here in the region, there is very sharp issue with the way that Netanyahu is conducting this war and the way that he has hijacked a lot of the protective barriers between totalitarianism, um, that we've seen Trump do here. So, to those people that feel that way, I mean, I feel grief because they've lost something precious to them. Am not educated enough to jump into this conversation about the war, but I just think it's important for us to remember that it is not a monolith of opinion over there.
absolutely, 100%. And I think that's perhaps the most pernicious thing about Netanyahu and his government trying to um, equate the state of Israel with Jewishness, and when it flattens all people, like you said, we're not a monolith here. A lot of half of our country at least doesn't like our leadership. A lot of the Israelis don't like their leadership, and by equating Netanyahu, Israel, and the Jewish people, he really it's in a way it's a kind of simplifying of what it means to be Jewish. It flattens an entire group of people and says, "You are all this," and that is always a bad idea, you know?